Good evening and welcome to Mountain Bears. I'm Aeson and of course I'm sitting down with the techie with Moses Techy-Joe. How are you, my cubby?
I'm doing well. How are you this evening?
Yeah, I'm alright. It's injection week.
It is. Day one of two complete.
Yes. Level 1 complete.
Yes.
We'll see what happens on Monday for level 2. The weather's been quite interesting. Um, it's just been all fun all the way around, it looks like. I mean, we've got trucks blowing up outside of Las Vegas, a crazy man in New Orleans. And we're
I
just
do
like
have to say, though, I do have to
3 days
say,
in here. Uh
yeah.
huh.
Oh, well, what I was going to say was that a Cybertruck blowing up in front of a Trump hotel is definitely a clue how that bromance is going.
Mm hmm. And
Like,
it ain't good.
2025 was like, ooh, crayons, let me explain.
Right.
Like, like, I'm sorry, I just got lost on the poetry of it. Like, wah.
Right.
I mean, yeah, I know it was it looks like it was an intentional act, and like someone did die.
Mm hmm.
Still, at that, it is. Oof.
It's just, and then what happened in New Orleans, now that was just terrible. Pure, outright terrible.
Mhm.
Uh,
And then I think there was also someone found with explosives in Virginia. There's been, like, it's just been like 2025 is just like,
mm hmm.
woo, spicy. Um, it's not that slow heat up. It's like we're here.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
it's like,
apparently the New Year's
hello.
baby for 2025 is Stewie Griffin.
I was about ready to say probably that, Stewie Griffin at its best. Um, We did get a decision in the case in Georgia for 102 years, life and life without parole for both of those monsters.
Oh yeah, the Georgia like local celebrity couple that adopted two kids and then created a house of
Right,
horrors.
right.
Horrors. Let me say that word very carefully, because there were some issues there. In addition to their own abuse of the kids, there was also child trafficking.
Yeah.
So that case, it's really upsetting. Like, both of them were activists. They were really celebrated in their local community.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think anyone had a clue this was where they were going to end up. You know what I
Well,
mean? Like, they didn't, like, it doesn't seem like anyone really had an inkling that anything was going on until they knew shit was going on. And then it's holy crap.
that's debatable according to the text messages they found in the little friends group.
Right. Like, there was a small group of people who all
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed this,
Mm-hmm.
that were interconnected. But I mean, as in the larger community, their
Mm-hmm.
neighbors, their other friends, I'm assuming, their
Right.
families, all of this. I don't think anyone thought,
Right.
like, even began to have a real consideration. Now, one half of the couple did have a prior incident
Mm-hmm.
that is talked about a little in the news articles, in which there was, like, and it sounds like the most botched case ever,
Yeah.
that, like, lob him a softball, like,
Mm-hmm.
walked away from that one and shouldn't have, is what it sounds like. Like, all the pieces were there, just no one wanted to touch this case.
Right.
Which again kind of brings you forward on the idea that sometimes trying to do someone a favor,
Mm-hmm.
or having situations do you a favor, kind of blows up in people's faces. So I don't know whether that was a deliberate, like someone went, you know what, let's hope he figures out what he did wrong and moves forward. And after his
Mm-hmm.
rush, everyone can, and was hoping for the best. Or if it was legitimately like somehow he wormed his way out of it. Um,
Right.
I don't know. I don't know what the deal was. If he just, so to speak, got lucky that like someone declined to prosecute, or what the whole scenario was there, because they don't really talk about that prior case very much, which I find really unfortunate
I
because there's
found not only
opportunity.
unfortunate, but okay, let's talk about the reporting of this, or at least the
Okay.
reporting I've seen. It's
Okay.
been shit. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
Facts
I
of the
don't.
case, House of Horrors, all this, and it's like,
Yeah.
why are we only getting this sentencing? This was a a Matlock level trial.
Well, I think this is one of those cases that the details are just so horrific
Mm-hmm.
that, like, how do you write about that without like writing a nightmare? Like, you know what I mean? There's the public's right to know,
Mm-hmm.
but then there are some cases that it's like the details are just so horrible and graphic.
Mm-hmm.
Like you would, how do you write about it
Yeah.
without being like, "Hi, here's your kitty pornography." You know what I
Well.
mean? Like there's like,
Mm-hmm.
how do you articulate it
Right.
without making it like a playbook or something? Um I and I think generally every like, I don't think you need that much detail to figure out this was bad.
Right.
And it's pretty clearly indicated, or at least the kind of between the lines there, really feels like these were two horrible people that met, had a horrible plan
Mm-hmm.
to adopt two kids specifically to abuse them,
Mm-hmm. Right.
and were otherwise just like walking around like, it was a
Right.
Tuesday,
Right.
and just, living the life.
Mm-hmm.
um their words fail.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, especially knowing the one half of this couple was involved in a prior charge. That there was every possibility that this couple could have
Right.
never met, maybe.
Right.
If that case had moved forward and sent him to prison,
Mm-hmm.
only for these two people uh, to meet, and then you have to question, was this two horrible people that, like, and I mean truly horrible people, that both wanted to do this, or is this one horrible person who takes someone else with them,
Right.
and together
Mm-hmm.
they commit horrible crimes? And
Right.
but it's like the other one, had they not have met, would have
Mm-hmm.
just gone on with life and, like, not done anything like this.
Right.
Which I think is sometimes the bigger concern, is what are the mechanics of it, at least in terms of, are these like Bonnie and Clyde, like two horrible people that like would have been bad enough on their own, but
Mm-hmm.
combined
Right.
they become notorious
Right.
people? Or is this like one person and drags, like, I don't want to, like, and I don't want to make it sound like there's some sympathy or defense here, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just like someone that may have had perverse and horrible ideas but never acted on them,
Right.
meets up with someone willing to act on them and wants to, and then they combine, and it's kind of a, like, this one really wouldn't have done anything, but
Mm-hmm.
this one kind of like created the opportunity to
Right.
to live out the thing, and so together I mean, and again, this is where it gets hard to articulate this without like getting
Mhm.
stream dropped. Because it's horrible.
Well,
Like there's no real way to talk about it without
there
like
isn't.
saying things that are horrible to talk about.
Right. And, we're dancing around a lot now. What I was listening to last night, and this is even more horrible, and something I want our listeners to be paying the fuck attention to. These horrible people are now using AI, taking pictures of children and feeding them into AI and producing movies over top of like it.
And this is one of the big concerns with AI is
Mm-hmm.
quote unquote AI generated photography and AI generated video.
Mm-hmm.
And it is kind of the AI generation Pandora's box
Mm-hmm.
of the like when it has hit the ability,
Mm-hmm.
which it has. Like we all thought it was cute when we're sitting here, like submitting our photos, and it of like parents and grandparents and great grandparents, yada yada yada, down the line. And like seeing them colorized and
Mm-hmm.
articulating facial expressions. The reality is that's kind of like a building block foundational to
Mm-hmm.
the things that are now happening. Like we
Right.
keep feeding it data, it keeps growing in abilities. Now it's grown to the point that it's almost able, and I say almost, like, and I do mean this in term of like, because this is where we get into the world of deep fake.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning that you can take a sample of audio
Mm-hmm.
and an image or a combination of images, and you can do things like have Donald Trump make a declarative sentence that makes sense and is coherent, um or embarrass your political rivals, whatever you want
Right.
to do with it, up to and including, unfortunately, in its native ability, creating or simulating um sex between people that never did this, never were involved in this, know
Mm-hmm.
nothing about this,
Right.
um all the way to the point that like you may not even potentially need, and this is where the world gets a little dicey, and like a starter image, so to speak.
Right.
That like right now what we're doing is using the faces and potentially some element of like their body to create these
Mm-hmm.
productions. It may very soon move and for photography has actually moved to the point that you can do this whole cloth,
Right.
that it doesn't need a starter image. You can feed it some text, it'll generate what you want within a few iterations. And so it becomes more important than ever that we constrain AI, and many companies already have,
Right.
as to limiting its capability,
Mm-hmm.
so that it does not do these things.
Right.
um the struggle gets real though,
Yeah.
because then you get into some weird arguments, like,
Mm-hmm.
is child pornography, for example, child pornography if there's no actual children involved? um which is an argument that's been made.
Mm-hmm.
Like this argument, and like NAMBLA, the vestige of morality in America, I believe has made the argument in the past that like artwork
Mm-hmm.
that is whole cloth generated from a human being, from their mind, is not the same as. Like
Yeah.
you in a literary context can write horrible, god awful things.
Yeah.
And those are technically not the production of child pornography. Even though the subject matter is grotesque to most human beings, that
Mm-hmm.
you would think this way, that you would create this, that you would do this,
Mm-hmm.
despite the fact that no children were actually harmed, is a horrible cop out. And I think most people are there with that. That like that doesn't necessarily make it okay.
No.
That like
No.
that's not the same as just don't do that. You know what I mean? Like that's I think where everyone's at. Like just don't play with that. Just don't
Right.
create with that. Just don't
Mm-hmm.
would be ideal. Like that's what the majority of people are at.
Right.
The reality, however, is that there's a problem necessarily calling this illegal on its face, even though it is a depiction of
Mm-hmm.
something that would ordinarily, if you were using a real camera and real people, be a crime.
Mm-hmm.
It's
And is a
the
crime.
ugly gray. It's the ugly gray.
Right.
So there's a lot of effort being made to try to catch up with the technology,
Right.
especially in this arena of no, we're not doing this. Like socially, we're not going this way. Like
Right.
when you talk about legislating and creating laws, and they're part of the social moray.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very strong version of that. That
Right.
like, yeah, technically you got a point
Mm-hmm.
that to be made, that you know this like no children were harmed. Unfortunately, the reality is, and what we have to think about legally is
Mm-hmm.
that no, but it's just when you cater to the audience that has this interest, even though you're doing it with content that didn't actually harm anyone directly in its production, you inspire actual crime.
Right.
Like it's not an outlet, which is usually the argument that, well, if you give them enough fake porn and erotica on these
Mm-hmm.
topics, then you prevent crime.
No, you don't.
The argument has become no, you entrench it as normal
Mm-hmm.
and you cause it reality.
Exactly. And it's pure filth. I hope that they put these two, because you know that they're going to appeal. I hope they put these two so deep underneath the Georgia prison that, they might find where, Scarlett left her shoes.
Okay. But no, and there's a lot of issues surrounding
Mm-hmm.
this because bad enough were their crimes.
Right.
But then the fact that communally,
Mm-hmm.
um, and the horrificness of it,
Mm-hmm.
really has the unfortunate reality
Mm-hmm.
of sort of providing justification to the worst of people who had argued this is why we shouldn't
Mm-hmm.
allow the gays to adopt.
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
no one in the community likes it when something happens that's like, this is that thing
Mm-hmm.
that for with no evidence, with no, with 99.9999999% of people will never commit this act, will
Right.
never do this, will never be a part of this. The existence of an example
Mm-hmm.
becomes all the proof they need to justify their feelings about a community they already hate.
Right.
Like it's confirmation bias. We all know that. We all
Mm-hmm.
understand that. But the fact remains, it hurts everyone.
Right.
Like, and the fact that two activists
Mm-hmm.
who supposedly were working within the community, within the greater, like Georgia area, to bring awareness to causes, to issues, would be the ones.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and after they were made like poster, the poster family for gay adoption,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh, why?
Yeah.
Why could you have not made any better choices than this?
Well, and here's the other thing, and they've not done it yet. I hope that they also press charges on every freaking one of them in that damn text chain. Every one of them.
Well, like the reality is, it was the text chain that kind of blew everything up. That, like, catching one offender
Mm-hmm.
led to, like,
Right.
the interactions with them,
Mm-hmm.
that then, like, it's
Right.
spread out. But it unfortunately draws a really negative association that, like, this
Right.
is what the gay community is.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I have to keep going back to, like, the worst, and besides the crime against children, which is horrible, we all know this. We, like, that's A1. Okay, let's. But the part that really makes it all that much worse is that these were community activists,
Right.
and it's like, why? Like, how brazen are you that you think that you're going to do this,
Mm-hmm.
and, do it in the context of being community activists, of being the poster, family for gay adoption, or one of them, because they were rocking that, like, all over the
Mm-hmm.
place. They had the t-shirt, literally and figuratively,
Right.
as the poster family for gay adoption.
Mm-hmm.
um like, I don't know, call me old fashioned, but I really like it when my monsters stay under the bed.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
stay out of the limelight. Don't try to take up the mantle of activists. Don't associate yourself so deeply with the
Right.
community that you're not only going to go down for your crimes,
Mm-hmm.
and, create this whole new example of the horrors of this community,
Right.
but you're going to drag
Mm-hmm.
everyone down with you.
Right.
Everyone that's been anywhere near you,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to tarnish their reputation. You're going to cause them
Right.
to be associated with you and this crime, in the most negative light possible.
Right.
Like, and we're not going to hear the end of this, most likely, for quite some time.
Right.
Like, the reality is,
Right.
so every organization that interviewed them and celebrated them as the poster family, they just
Mm-hmm.
got drug under this bus.
Right.
Anyone that has, worked with them, that sponsored an event with them, that whatever,
Yeah.
all of them bear the weight of this. And again, this is not the A1 problem I have,
Right.
but it's the toxic sludge around the problem.
Right.
That, like, not only was the problem horrific,
Right.
but the B one
Mm-hmm.
is, and then the like glom on effect of it is so horrific
Mm-hmm.
that, like, if you had just stayed the monster under the bed, lived in your little Georgia holler, and, this is what you did, would have been bad enough.
Right.
But instead, you're attached to other people, other groups, other entities, other things, And so you're going to take all of them with you. Like, that's going to be, a stain on them.
Right.
For eons. It's going to be the first thing someone can point to.
Right.
And it's like, so thank you for setting us back like 20 years, 30 years.
30 years. And giving ammo to every hate group out there. All right, so we're going to cover a lighter story, and then we're going to go into another heavier story.
All right.
Honey, you're in luck.
Oh?
Study finds eating cheese may reduce your risk of potential serious health conditions.
There is a benefit to being a cheese-based life form. Awesome.
There is.
All right, so this could be great news for cheese lovers. A recent study found potential links between cheese and positive health outcomes, particularly when it comes to sleep. The results of the study, published in the December edition of the Sleep Medicine Journal, found that eating more cheese may be linked to a reduced likelihood of developing sleep apnea, a potentially serious medical condition that can cause you to stop breathing while you sleep. The study's researchers pointed out that although there's been research focused on the health benefits of cheese, the study aimed to examine the direct relationship between cheese and sleep apnea. The authors noted that essential nutrients found in cheese, including calcium, protein, and vitamins, could influence metabolic and cardiovascular health, which are both factors associated with sleep apnea. To conduct the study, the researchers analyzed data from the UK Biobank, a large-scale biomedical database in Britain, and the FinGen Biobank, a research project that collects health data from 500,000 Finnish donors to analyze potential associations between sleep apnea and cheese consumption. They looked at 400,000 people in two long-term studies, and found that those who ate cheese had a 28% lower risk of having sleep apnea than those who didn't. Now, of course, this is from Food and Wine magazine. I'm starting to wonder about some of these studies, though. Can we just talk about that for a second?
Sure.
Like, one, whoever thought, like, I really want to hear the model that went through someone's head about, we're going to compare, like, I'm sorry, I'm just sitting here going, how stoned was this researcher when they said, I'm going to study whether cheese influences sleep apnea. Like, what's your connection here? Like, what got you from A to B?
Graduate students are fabulous idea creators.
And massive consumers of marijuana. Like...
But this sounds like this was, someone trying to justify to their other partner.
I can prove it.
Right.
The results showed that cheese consumption influenced the levels in 23 biomarkers, with 6 of those biomarkers playing a direct role in the potential relationship between eating cheese and a reduced likelihood of developing sleep apnea. By applying this technique, this study aims to clarify the association between cheese consumption and sleep apnea, identifying potential mediating biomarkers and providing insights into how cheese intake may affect sleep apnea risk, the researchers wrote. So what's the goal here? Is just eat more cheese?
Yes.
What?
Yeah. Basically, they're finding a connection with food and sleep apnea, and cheese is the one they pop up there.
Yeah. Now, but he cautioned that readers should still consider the fact that the study shows a correlation between cheese consumption and a lower risk of sleep apnea, not evidence that cheese consumption causes a reduced risk of the disorder. So while this association is certainly exciting, is far from perfect and should not give people free rein to consume excessive amounts of cheese and dairy products, he told the publication, before he also pointed out that some cheeses are healthier and more nutrient rich than others.
Right.
All right. Oh, yeah. So the Mayo Clinic states that cheese can generally be a part of a healthy diet, but the people consider low-fat cheeses to limit calories and saturated fat. So, yeah. So don't go out there trying to fix your sleep apnea with more cheese, but just know that if you do love your cheese, you have a reason to wag your finger in front of your, cheese naysayers and go, but it might be preventing me from having sleep apnea.
Right.
I'm back to how did you get here? Was it just a random, glaring statistical anomaly that you went, that's weird? All these cheese people don't seem to have sleep apnea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, to me, though, it also feels like really weak research.
It seems like it's database driven. That's why I know it's a grad student article.
Yeah.
It isn't like they followed, 200 people who ate 2 cubes of cheese each night before going to bed, and then turned around and, followed the same 200 people before and told them not to allow cheese into their diet.
Yeah.
With all the weird diets that are out in 2025, this one I think I can get behind. You can have all your cheese you want before you go to bed.
I mean, but even I can't even get behind this one and be like, yeah, eat more cheese. You'll probably not have sleep apnea.
Right.
What? But because I mean, one, I think of more research, please. Because anything that gives us a right to eat more cheese without guilt, I'm down for. But there's no I'm trying to follow the connection that these two things could have, and it's one, it doesn't look like anyone bothered to do that, which is try to explain how the two things could be related.
Right.
That it's not just a random correlation that popped up statistically, that there's just some weird non-connection connection that which is what a correlation is. It's so to speak, it's the happy little tree.
Right.
Is what a correlation is. It's a happy little tree.
Right.
It has no meaning. It is insignificant on its own. It doesn't do anything.
Right.
It just exists. And it's a happy little tree. That people who like cheese don't tend to have sleep apnea. It's a happy little tree. It doesn't mean anything. There's no deep meaning. It is not about the happy little tree. Going to Bob Ross for explanative effect. But they didn't even try.
Right.
And then they have to go into what sleep apnea is and how sleep apnea is treated and da da da. Now I have noticed, I will point out, now Brenda, let me get that out of the way real quick though. Brenda says they always say milk products increase mucus, so not to eat it when sick. Maybe they went from there. Possibly. Someone was trying to either disprove the dairy connection or prove the dairy connection to why sleep apnea might be more of a problem. So excuse to eat more cheese, happy little tree. I'll buy that. Yeah, I'm there. But now there are studies that do link and very clearly link casein, the which is in dairy, that your body apparently converts it to an opioid. So you can have reduced pain
Right.
by eating more dairy. So I think there's kind of this weird, like, was that like your basis?
Mm-hmm.
That you were like, how do these two things play together? Like, I'm trying to follow, and it feels like there's a chunk of the article missing.
Right.
So I like, this is my problem though with some research is the chunk missing?
Right.
Or is it like a weird rush to publish this obscure finding?
Right.
That, like, we're not going to even try to explain it. We're just going to be like, there's a weird correlation here. Yay,
Right.
I'm published. Like, is what it feels like.
Right.
Like, I don't know.
Mm-mm.
I do hate that about research, though, is so often, like, a lot of what we're doing anymore is just finding the most weird, obscure, oddball things, trying to set
Mm-hmm.
people, like, to spotlight them for
Right.
their new and creativeness. That what are we getting for it? Like, you
Well,
get a great headline, it's very
right.
clickbaity. But otherwise, what did we actually
Mm-hmm.
accomplish? Like, what are you doing anything with that? Do you plan to do anything with that? Is that like an actual, like, thing you're gonna go off and be like,
Mm-hmm.
let's find out what it is about cheese, and maybe
Right.
we can create a pill that gets rid of your CPAP machine or
Right.
your
And they've
BiPAP
made a
machine.
lot of movement with the CPAP. It is not the gangly machine it used to be.
It isn't.
You know.
It isn't.
You know.
But it would be interesting if we found some component of cheese
Mm-hmm.
that we could refine and magnify, and I'm sure
Right.
Pfizer will make millions, billions, trillions, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
off of a medication that you could take, say once
Right.
a day, that gets rid of all of it. Like the
Right.
CPAP, the BiPAP, the mask that everyone hates, the tubing that constricts you, like all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And you just pop a pill.
Right.
But that would make an argument that there's something in cheese
Right.
that helps you maintain your airway, and that, like, some of the things that we think about or believe to be true
Mm-hmm.
of sleep apnea have nothing to do with the condition.
Right.
Like, that would ultimately be the potentiality, is
Right.
that, like, this is some kind of a weird, like, defect of genetics that you
Right.
need something, that you're not processing an enzyme in your food correctly, and it's leading to the collapse of your airway.
Right.
Instead of the argument that's generally made that this is an effect of obesity,
Mm-hmm.
which is generally one of the high markers for sleep apnea, is that you're overweight,
Mm-hmm.
and that it has everything to do with this excess fat in your body
Right.
is compressing your airway.
Right.
Um, which to me has seemed a little weird.
Right.
But
I know. It's for me. It's been more than a little weird. It's total bullshit. Skinny people have sleep apnea. There's a neurological thing there, and it could be food related. It could very much be food related, and I think we're just now getting into this. And this study seems a little shaky on grounds,
oh yeah,
but it shows a lot of the correlations going on with food and how foods, can play with your body and affect your body one way or another. All right. So, honey, how much bullshit would you pull to get free upgrades?
I mean, I don't know that I'm prepared to pretend we're on a honeymoon.
Exactly.
Like,
Every day's a honeymoon with me.
uh-huh. Uh, I'll wait for Brenda to pick herself up off the floor to respond to that. So Queerty brings us upgrades for what is the question, LOL. So gay couple pretend they're on honeymoon to get free upgrade, but were unprepared for this. So a gay content creator has seen one of his recent TikTok videos go super viral. Australian Ricky Liu and his boyfriend undertook a 24-hour luxury cruise on Halong Bay, Vietnam. Liu says they were treated like royalty before they even boarded the La Costa Regal cruise. However, to maximize the experience, they pretended they were on honeymoon to secure an upgrade. While they were delighted to find their beds subsequently scattered with rose petals, they were unprepared for the boat's staff to make a big deal out of their non-existent recent wedding. The cruise surprised Ricky and his boyfriend at dinner with free rainbow cocktails, a blast of Whitney Houston's I Will Always Love You over the sound system, and workers swaying and waving their phone torches. So the flashlight on their phone. It is the new cigarette lighter, just so you know. If you're going to concerts these days, you turn on the flashlight on your phone. It's no longer about the Bic. The Bic is dead.
Right.
So Ricky and his other half awkwardly sip their free rainbow cocktails as other passengers gaze at them. The video has received over 15 million views since it appeared 2 weeks ago. Rainbow drinks gotta be a microaggression was one well-liked comment. Another person said, imagine they said now kiss. Ricky replied, revealing they told us to stand up, but we didn't. Ha ha ha. Another pointed out the men were not wearing rings. Ricky admitted they explained that away by saying the rings were being altered. As someone who hates being the center of attention, this would have been a nightmare, even if I were truly on a honeymoon, said another commenter. In a longer video, Ricky shows more clips from the cruise. He says at the start, apparently this, saying you're on a honeymoon to get an upgrade, is an old school trick. He admits at the end he'd probably pull the same stunt again, despite the awkwardness that ensued.
Nah.
Uh-oh. We got rearranged.
You're always still in my seat.
I know. I like why. Like I get it's an old trick, and it's been like, and pretending to be a married couple is a very old trick. A recently married couple is another. God knows there's black and white movies about this.
Right.
And it's usually, but here's the catch. Right. If you learn nothing else from movies,
right,
it always is a trick used in a screwball comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Because hilarity ensues. This is supposed to be the learning lesson that you play with fire, you're gonna get burned.
Right.
Like you pretend to be married, you pretend to be on your honeymoon.
Right.
Hilarity will find itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like it will just show up.
Right.
Oh, Brenda says that's like saying it's a birthday or anniversary when eating out just because you want the free cake or ice cream or dessert or whatever.
Yeah. No.
Well, or at least be prepared. Like, no, if you're gonna do this,
right,
there is no such thing as free cake.
Right.
There is no such thing as a free upgrade. Shit's gonna get real. You're gonna pay for this.
Right.
Like, invariably, it will get awkward.
Well, not only that, but it's ridiculous. And I really mean ridiculous. And I think it's just like, if they do get married, they've just, tainted their wedding.
Well, it's like, so you've already had the experience. Now, what do you think the real deal would be like?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you're almost going to need a new partner just to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like, we've done this before. We've had the rose petals. We've done this before.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know exactly what to expect at this point. It's going to be kind of,
Yeah.
I mean, granted, there's some argument to be
honeymoon.
Yeah, Oh. But no, I think the teachable moment here is if you play with this, Like the
Mm-hmm.
birthday, the anniversary, the honeymoon,
Mm-hmm.
the married, whatever. Hilarity will ensue.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not just going to be telling one lie and like, oh, we got a free room upgrade. Hee hee hee.
Right.
This is always part of a screwball comedy.
Right.
Hilarity will ensue because you've just set people on a course.
Right.
And it is a collision course with you.
Right.
Because that's what always happens in a screwball comedy. You wrote your own screwball comedy
Right.
when you do this. Like, just know I cannot guarantee what it'll be, but it's going to be screwball.
Right. It's going to be terrible screwball, and you just, I don't know. I think it's just bullshit, and especially doing it on everything.
Yeah. Well, and it's one thing if it's like one, like, again, it's never a free upgrade. It's never a free dessert. It's never a free whatever. It always has like attention. Like, businesses don't give you free shit.
No.
Unless you have like trillions of dollars, and then they give you free
Right.
shit all the time.
Right.
But general, normal human beings with like relatable bank accounts don't get free shit.
Right.
They like a business will exploit this.
Yes.
They will one way or another use it to not pay taxes. So they will declare it as some kind of loss. They're going to use it as advertising. They are going to use it to make themselves look good. They are going to show you off and parade you around. They're going to do the things.
Right.
Like, this is what business is good at. They're like, this is cheap.
Right.
Like, warm fuzzies for other customers about this business. So yeah, they're going to parade you around. They're like, it's going to be a dog and pony show.
Right.
Like, you don't get the free upgrade. It's not free.
Right.
And the cruise company sees the video and now sends them a bill for the free upgrade. Yeah, no, I think if anything, it's amazing even better. It's even better for the company that this is all over TikTok, and it is now known that, like, you know, they totally played them for the free upgrade. Right. Like, you almost feel bad for the business. Like, you got duped, man. Right. Like, you gave this couple like all the bells and whistles. And they lied to you. They looked you dead in the eye. They lied to you. They lied to you again. Like, oh, where's your rings? Oh, they're being altered. Like, there are no rings.
Right.
Like, their rings have not even been created yet.
Right.
Most likely. I mean, they could be in a display case somewhere gathering dust.
Right.
Or the future purchase they will make if they stay together. But the reality is, like, you know, like, you didn't just tell a lie. You had to keep telling lies. Right. Again, this is part of any screwball comedy, is it starts with one big lie, and then there's all the other lies you have to tell.
Right.
Because people have questions. They're legitimate questions. Like, and you didn't, like, and they didn't even show up prepared.
Right.
Like a trip to Walmart.
Right.
Or your local discount, you know, store with a jewelry section.
Right.
You could have bought 2 rings, $50, in and out. 2 cheap, stupid rings. You don't have to tell that lie.
Right.
But instead.
Yeah. Instead, you're being an asshole. All right. So we're going to talk sister wives, because don't give me why.
No, I said, oh my.
Yeah.
Because usually when you bring up sister wives, there's been a Cody development and he has done something stupid.
No, the world's worst Hinge hasn't done anything stupid yet. Although Janelle's making moves, and it's been very interesting. As we know, Garrison decided to self-select. and to escape this plane. And, that was unfortunate. And they've had Janelle's had a very hard holiday season. I think her family in North Carolina have done very well to pull together, support her, all that. She did sell his townhome. That made major news. But it was more so the news of who is handling all the estate.
Oh. Okay.
Now, in their version of polygamy, which is not polyamory, I want to fix some of you YouTubers out there. You need to learn the difference. Go read Ethical Slut before you make a video.
Yeah, polyamory can be polygamy. Polygamy is not all of polyamory.
Exactly.
Be very careful with the words you choose. And can we just go ahead and say that polygamy itself and polyandry itself really have a tinge to them, so be very careful using those words. Because you tend to communicate more than this one person and these people. You end up communicating a whole dynamic, and that may or may not be the case.
Right.
So be careful.
Their model was that he was in charge of everything. He handles everything. This was his early episodes, early seasons. Yes, we were there for season 1. He wasn't named in the estate. He's not on the executor paperwork. Janelle is doing all of this and basically going, you can't be on his birth certificate. You couldn't call him for his birthday. You couldn't call, you couldn't just pick up the phone for him. And it's now come out that he wasn't even called by the cops.
Oh, wow. So it's just been all on her.
All on her.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we are glad that hopefully that means that him and, the Robinator will not be eating up any of that poor boy's money of his estate, will not be getting any of that. Yeah.
That, it's so unfortunate, though. You know what I mean? And this is where, as much as we can hate and talk on and talk about and criticize and everything, the parents, the adults in the situation who meaningfully agreed to publicize and record and televise their lives.
Right.
It's always the kids that
right.
Jesus, how do you handle being this shown? You know what I mean? Well, how much of his life was pre-TV show?
I think he was 12 or 13 when they got the TV show.
Oh God, that's almost worse.
Yeah, he's one of the old OGs, so he was in that.
I mean, because when you do stupid shit as a toddler, everyone's like, "Oh, it's so adorable!"
Right.
When you're being dropped into this as a preteen teenager, in that phase, one, you're just aware enough in real time, or near real time, the delay of production, of yourself, your body, the way you look, the way your voice sounds, how stupid you looked, whatever, in that moment. Because I mean, inevitably we all look stupid, right? And that's part of being the adult making the decision, is that you're being used for entertainment value,
right?
Dance,
right?
You know what I mean? That's the whole thing. To be pushed into this as a preteen teen and have all this attention on you,
Right.
really kind of like gets into the realities
Mm-hmm.
that, like, you know, or well, yeah, I guess the realities of what used to be known as like the president kid problem.
Right.
Is that, before the wilds of television, that started making reality TV and pulling,
Mm-hmm.
random people out of that no one would have ever known about or had anything to care about,
Right.
into a television series that goes on for years.
Right.
um Typically the only people who had this kind of intense scrutiny
Right.
as children,
Mm-hmm.
were usually, it was like the president kid problem,
Right.
is that, like, and it was the unfortunate circumstance of, like, well, your dad just got elected president.
Right.
You're now, like, gonna be talked about, like, you're gonna be
Right.
photographed, talked about, videoed, broadcast on the nightly news, like, just for existing, just for being,
Right.
the president's child.
Right.
And the intense, like, struggle with that, and
Mm-hmm.
then, part of that was also the celebrity kid problem,
Right.
is that, your parents are the celebrity,
Right.
um and by, connection, you're foisted into the middle of this.
Right.
So it's kind of part of the Christina Crawford problem
Mm-hmm.
of, like, you have celebrity parents trying to make everything look all glitzy and glam,
Mm-hmm.
and everything's perfect. I'm a wonderful parent,
Mm-hmm.
and here's my beautiful child to prove it, like, take a photo.
Mm-hmm.
um but no one ever asked you. You didn't agree to this.
Right.
Your parent did on your behalf, but you didn't agree to any of this. You can't take any of this back. You can't control it.
Right.
And by the time you realize, potentially, like, what has occurred, there's no going backwards. You can't
Right.
yank it and be like, no, don't want
Right.
anyone to see that. But there's a major adjustment that, like, a kid who starts as a toddler, or,
Mm-hmm.
a newborn, a toddler, whatever, at least you can start to like use that, the grace period of being a little
Mm-hmm.
kid and just everything you do is cute and adorable.
Mm-hmm.
Use the grace of that to get
Mm-hmm.
used to, like, this is how this works.
Right. And
The camera's over here, smile at it and look wonderful.
right.
And learn to control yourself.
Right.
Not that that's necessarily the best thing to do to a child. There's probably a bunch of child psychologists that are like, please don't do this to your children.
Right.
But at least as a younger child, you have the grace,
Mm-hmm.
versus an older child, preteen, teen, whatever
Right.
in that range, to, like, get used to it while you're still just, everything you do is adorable and cute and forgivable.
Right.
Instead of, like, hi, at this really uncomfortable, awkward stage of your life, now everything you do gets under a microscope.
Right. And then you have the other side of that, which is Mary. Mary, she gets hounded and told she's a bad mom and everything else over Leon. And and she finally said in a recent interview that no, Leon has decided that they will share what they want on social media, but no, they don't want to be on the show. They want a private life. And, I don't know how many pieces I have seen about, oh, there's a rift in the family because we don't see Leon anymore and they don't, participate in the show. And, Mary never talks about their son. And I am like,
Because that's called respect.
respect. Yes.
Like, my child came to me, said, Mom, I don't want to do this shit anymore. I don't want to be a part of this shit anymore. Leave
Mm-hmm.
me the fuck out of this shit. Don't talk
Mm-hmm.
about me. Don't talk about my life. Don't talk about my world.
Right.
I'm not part of your show.
Right.
I am my own self, private individual.
Mm-hmm.
Like, love you, mean it. But I'm not part of the circus. I'm not a
Right.
circus animal. You do not get to parade me around. And that's what I'm talking about, the real challenge of these shows.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen it across multiple. And we're going
Okay.
to continue to see the effects for years of some of the
Right.
reality television programs
Right.
that literally like created, micro celebrities,
Mm-hmm.
up to celebrities, and yanked the kids with them
Mm-hmm.
into like into and through this like all the awkward parts of their life.
Right.
Like we've seen some really devastating effects in like 18 and counting.
Mm-hmm.
Like you cannot tell me,
Right.
you will never convince me that at least part of
Mm-hmm.
what occurred in that household was not co-connected to the fact you
Mm-hmm.
put that child in front of a camera
Right.
during the most awkward years of their life,
Right.
and you didn't think about the consequences of that, because
Right.
no one thought about the consequences of that,
Right.
because money.
Right.
We're going to make a hit television show.
And another one, and another one, and another one. Like Jim Bob was ridiculous.
Mhm.
But no, as a hinge, I'm starting to get a little pissed off with people because I'm sorry. If I'd done what Cody did to his 3 wives, my husbands would chain me up and they wouldn't pack and leave. They'd all just turn into fucking piranhas on my ass.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I'm not saying you'd never find the body. I'm just saying it'd be a jigsaw puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
But no, sorry. I'm not trying to threaten Aeson's life here on live
because
air.
there are creators I've been watching. They've been like applying blanket statements to the wrong identification. And I've gotten to some heated chats in their chat going, no, he is the worst hinge on earth. My husbands would kill me. All of them.
Yeah, I'd turn the baristas loose. Totally. But no, well, and I think part of this is also, and I think that there's, and it's a weird thought to have, and maybe it's time for your donut, Clays. But at the point in which you make a reality television show out of polygamy,
right?
Is it really polygamy anymore? Because this has been the blurred line of reality television for ages.
Mm-hmm.
Is that while it's unscripted, it is not unprompted.
Right.
And what the secret sauce for reality television has always been introducing conflict and drama where conflict and drama might not have existed. By taking statements that someone else made out of context that they probably wouldn't have made if you'd never asked them a question that was so pointed as to elicit a comment that could be taken out of context and thrown at like a spouse or another family member or another person involved in this reality television show. And I really have to argue at some point that, like, is this even polygamy anymore? Or is this just a television show and the premise is loosely based on polygamy? Well, because I think there's a point somewhere around, I don't know, season 3 of any reality television show. I don't think this is reality anymore. This is so augmented and exaggerated and twisted and turned. This isn't their real life anymore. This isn't real life anymore. You're not seeing real people anymore. You're seeing manufactured drama. So it makes me start to really question how much is really about like Cody's the worst hinge ever and Cody's the worst ever and blah blah blah, and how much of this has been manufactured. Not meaning that he didn't do these things, he did. But would he have done them but for the television show, but for being pulled into manufactured situations, but for like having his personality exploited for TV
Well,
ratings.
you'd have to get one first, but anyhow,
well, fair. But you see what I'm saying?
I
like,
see what
a
you're
lot
saying,
of this
but
is being
looking at his
manufactured.
documented actions
Mm-hmm.
and putting them into my lens,
Mm-hmm.
you know, here I am spending all my time with, you know, the kid, since we're going to use his the formulation of behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, the rotation isn't occurring, all that isn't occurring. And I'm making comments to you who wants to go see your sister in North Carolina. Will save your grocery money while I'm, you know, reseeding the backyard and doing all this other stuff for her.
Oh, we'll fertilize that yard.
Uh-huh.
I'll help.
Yes. And, you know, you can't find me, you know, for days at a time. And, you know,
Yeah.
She thinks I'm there. You think I'm at Invisibles, like if we were all in separate houses.
Yeah.
Like,
and the reality is you're off doing like your own thing with this one person. So now it's basically a monogamous relationship, but you've got some unfinished business with some not yet exes.
Right.
Like you're really failing the end or multiple relationships before you start this monogamous relationship. And that's kind of part and parcel of what I'm saying with like, is it even polygamy anymore? Like, forget that they actually have divorced and it really is now just Robin.
Right.
Even before Robin, was it even polygamy anymore, or had we shot so far past this that like this isn't even real relationships anymore? Like you've manufactured so much drama for ratings that you've destroyed the thing, the very thing you were trying to present in a television show.
Well, here's the thing, and here's the problem with this. It wasn't for ratings. He was actually doing this shit. Like, for ratings is one thing. Like, the cameras are here. I'm going to disappear for a couple days.
Oh, yeah. So Brenda says, Joe sends out a text. Sorry, no show tonight. Aeson's on an extended trip. I'll be out planting the endangered species plant I bought to surprise them. You know.
And,
6 foot deep.
Exactly. And then now it's coming out that he basically gave each of his partners a list. Mary's the only one that's talked about this.
Okay.
But we know that something occurred with Christine 3 years prior to her leaving. And I'm quite sure Janela will probably drop a few more bombs the rest of this season about some of the crap he's pulled. And I'm listening to this and going, what the hell? Here's a list for me to have a relationship with you.
Okay, but that's my exact point, is who the hell thinks this shit up?
Yeah.
And I don't think Cody's that fucking clever.
No, he isn't.
So that's my point. That's my point. That it's basically manufactured. Someone had to give him this idea. And you're not going to convince me that he was just, I don't know, hanging at a Ruby Tuesday or some shit and bumped into a friend who's like, you know what you need is this. And, you know, he went, yeah, that's a great idea. I should do that. No, this is a producer. This is someone who is psychologically manipulating the situation for ratings. They know the end result. They've already figured out the end result. Give your spouse a list of things to do. That's going to end well.
Right. Well, I would go with that if she had if it had actually came out in the show. It didn't come out in the show until after the spiritual divorce. And one of the setup conversations of her dropping tea with her friends.
But that's when she revealed what was done. how much of it influenced her and how she acted and her mental state and their relationship, and ultimately led to other problems before she divulged that.
Right.
Like, and there's a potentiality you go all the way backwards and they were okay and would have continued being okay.
Right.
But not for
him letting a cowboy into that group.
Yeah,
Sorry.
exactly.
You know, it's now coming out that like Robin was dropping hints about the legal divorce and you know, like she has been, and I am like, okay, why is it that polyamory gets a lot of articles, a lot of information, a lot of things on cowboys?
Well, but I will say that like Robin is like 12 ranches over from the beginning of the problem.
Right.
Like this relationship got run through every ranch on the way there. Most of those ranch hands, like most of those cowboys, had nothing to do with the actual relationship.
Right.
But had everything to do with production, with, you know, working for a network, working in, you know, whatever context to make the show. And that's what I'm saying. I think that like ultimately little things were being dripped over years that like tweaked the show, created a little drama, created a little tension, created a little like meh.
Yeah.
And no one talked about what actually happened. And I don't think they even realized what actually happened. And then years later, divulge the fact, oh yeah, he gave me a fucking list. Oh. So now, with that knowledge, what if you go back to the point where she says she got the list and see what was going on before that? And then, like, is there a marked change? Like, an episode to episode, like, right fucking there, she got the list.
Yeah.
Right there. I can see it on her face. She is sitting there, like, angry, pissed, annoyed, frustrated, feeling worthless, whatever thing. But she's not going to talk about it. She's just going to take that knowledge forward and struggle with it.
Right.
So you've again, you're changing the character like you would in a book. Like this, you drip one little thing, you know, that knowledge you shouldn't have, that information you shouldn't have, you know, found, the whatever.
Which apparently is the Cody Brown narrative, because they're supposed to not, like, he's not supposed to be sharing stuff going on with one wife with another. And apparently
then how
he
the
was
hell do you
running
do
around
the show?
Well, not only that,
like, because ultimately, I mean, I would hope you wouldn't be sharing the deepest, darkest secrets that you kicked the cameras out for. Like, we can all agree on that. But at the point in which you agreed to do the show, you're basically gonna be able to watch it with everyone else and find out like some version.
Right, but you're not going to find out the pillow talk. You're not going to find out.
Right.
But no, he was running from one wife to another and spreading all the pillow talk.
Yeah.
Especially for Janelle, apparently. And I'm hoping these ladies write a new book or write 3 books. I'll buy all of them. Of just how bad he fucked this up after 30 damn years.
Well, and again, I kind of go back to, did he, like, I'm not, like, I, like, sympathy for Cody is not a hill I'm going to die on here. And that's not exactly my point. I don't think he is all that, like, in a bag of chips to start with.
No, someone needs to tell him to get a damn haircut.
Okay, but my whole point is, I don't think he started as bad as he has ended up, and I don't think that he would have ended up here but for the show.
No, I think he would have ended up somewhere in Montana but for the show. And when I'm saying in Montana, I'm talking underneath some, desert plant that only grows in Montana and cannot be found.
I mean, that's
Because
certainly a
and
possibility.
right, and Jeanette would
But
suddenly be taking care of a lot more things, and the family would suddenly have more money.
yeah. Or alternatively, he might be a bastard and
Right.
not, all that in a bag of chips. But Robin probably wouldn't be in the picture because she seems to be, like glomming on for the attention.
Mm-hmm. And the money.
Which argumentatively,
Mm-hmm.
while it would not have been a good relationship for anyone involved, it
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't have been necessarily bad enough to walk away from.
Right.
So there's a potential, like the three of them could have stayed together
Mm-hmm.
and just, yeah, it's not great. He's a bastard, whatever.
Right.
And just, stand by your man your way until like he drops dead.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever eventually takes him out. Could have been an alternative reality
Right.
if he'd stayed away from the show, if he had not listened during the show, if these things weren't being done to them
Right.
by the show, if they didn't, because in those little like inner like reflection segments or whatever the hell they're calling them,
Mm-hmm.
and they do it in
Couch
every
interview.
reality show now, of like, you come over and we start talking about your feelings and your thoughts about this thing that happened and that thing that happened.
Mm-hmm.
That's not really how real life works. Or you do that with a trusted friend who isn't dumb enough to turn around and like, share with everyone
Right.
what you said and lets you process it and actually gears you towards like, what's good for you. And
Mm-hmm.
like isn't just trying to like microscope it up
Mm-hmm.
and maybe bring up things that you were just like, I don't like it, but I'm going to just not think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because the reality is like, and I think it's really important to note that sometimes the reality of any relationship
Mm-hmm.
is you're going to have a moment where you're like, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with you. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to opt to ignore that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm just going to, nope. I'm just going to keep going. Like this, like, I don't have time to take the exit ramp.
Right.
We're just going to keep going and hope that, like you figure out something differently. You are inspired to change, prayer for judgment, something that
Mm-hmm.
this isn't who you are.
Right.
And just, I'm going to block that out
Mm-hmm.
and ignore it and just keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Versus having the opportunity or prompting to
Mm-hmm.
be like, so what did you think when he did that?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, when he did that, I thought he was fucking nuts.
Right.
And then let's like focus on that and stoke that up a little bit and draw attention to it and make you really
Mm-hmm.
process it and deal with it. Because again, in most relationships, you have a few moments
Mm-hmm.
where you're like, not today, Satan, not today. Like, I ain't had enough coffee. Like,
Mm-hmm.
no, we're not going to deal with that. We're just going to ignore that.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to hope that is not a thing that becomes a thing.
Right.
Like, we're going to hope that was, a senior moment, a stroke, a brain fart, a
Mm-hmm.
weird, like, mental,
Mm-hmm.
something.
Right.
And just keep going.
Uh-huh.
Like that like so far this is an outlier statistically. This is an
Right.
outlier. We're just going to ignore that data like they do in statistics.
Uh-huh.
Unless it starts repeating and then it's like, woohoo, that's not an outlier.
Yeah.
That is subsequent repeated data. This is who someone is. This is the thing.
Right.
But no, I think in in every relationship you have those moments,
Right.
but not for a camera crew, a production assistant, all these other people involved.
Mm-hmm.
I think you'd ignore it and just we're gonna not today, nope, we're not dealing with that. But then I think that's a lot of what those segments become.
Well, no,
Is like picking out little things that might not have been a thing, might not have become a thing. It was a moment that would have never like been anything else. And teasing it out.
Understandable. So here's the hard question: would you do a reality show?
No.
Okay.
No. No. I'm going to say this. I think people who do reality television need some serious mental health evaluation for their fitness as humans.
Right.
And I say that because it seems to draw out the worst people to do horrible things to other people. And then treat it like it's all a game. And drag along like people who get swayed into it.
Right.
And just don't understand that like they're not playing the game.
Right.
Like one person is playing a game, Cody in this instance, for money, for whatever, and this is all just fun and games to him, and he thinks it's hilarious.
Right.
There's other people involved that are not playing the game, that are taking all this seriously, that think this is reality, that think this is, you know, how he feels and what he thinks and da-da-da. And isn't just him talking out of his ass for entertainment value. And they get really damaged, hurt, and destroyed.
Right.
Like, he's leaving a wake of carnage.
Yeah.
And cool, I got money.
Right.
Because I don't think he takes any of this seriously.
Well, he's about ready to take a lot of it seriously because Christine has dragged his ass to court. There are rumors that Mary and Janelle are dragging his ass to court. And I'm quite sure he's already been in court and got told to sit down and shut up. If you didn't want to put the name on the birth certificate, you don't get to decide shit.
There you go.
All right.
Choices.
All right. So we have an Are You the Asshole for you.
Oh, do we have one?
Yes, I do. Pre-selected.
Yay, pre-selection. Gotta love it. All right. Oh, wild. I actually read that one and wasn't sure if I wanted to do it or not. Am I the asshole for making my friend walk home after he insulted my cooking? I, 27 male, hosted a small dinner at my place for a few friends last weekend. I'm no professional chef, but I enjoy cooking and I spent hours prepping a nice meal. Everyone seemed to like it, except for my friend Mark, 28 male. From the moment he sat down, Mark kept making little comments like, "Did you forget to season this?" Or, "This is why I stick to takeout." At first, I laughed it off, but he wouldn't stop. Eventually, he said something like, "Man, even a frozen pizza would have been better than this." That was the last straw for me. I told him, "If you hate it so much, maybe you should just leave." He laughed, thinking I was joking, but I wasn't. I made it clear he wasn't welcome to stay if he was going to keep insulting me. He ended up leaving, but since he didn't drive, he had to walk home about 20 minutes. Now, a few friends are saying I overreacted and that kicking him out was too harsh. While others think he deserved it, Mark texted me later, calling me petty and saying I made him feel humiliated. Am I the asshole?
Yes. You are not the asshole. Mark is the asshole.
Yes, we have no bananas. I'm going to go with everyone's shitty here. Okay. I have a strong suspicion that this is one of those friendships, and it's very common with guy friendships, where like trash talking and like just knocking each other is like the friendship. Like it's the cement, it's the glue, it's what you do, it's continuous, it's never ending.
Mm-hmm.
It goes on and on and on and on, and it aggravates everyone else around you because they think you're sworn enemies from the outside, only to realize that no, this is a guy thing. And I've been in that, like I've had a work friend that he and I went back and forth at each other. Our boss literally thought he was going to have to separate us, and we're like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, I give him shit, he gives me shit, we have fun with it. The problem is, and this is usually where this blows up, and it's you know, is that you are a little bit vulnerable and share something you enjoy doing, but you're not the best at.
Right.
As in, you're good, you did good. You know, it's not bad food, it's not a bad meal, there's nothing technically all that wrong. You know, but you're a home cook. You're not a professional chef, like you said. But you have a little insecurity. And they just continue like it is business as usual. And, you know, treat you like this is anything else you are confident in your competency at. And it just needles the hell out of you. And so that little bit of insecurity blows up into an overreaction. Meanwhile, usually the crux of this being able to be a functional friendship pattern is the ability to recognize when this isn't something they're competent at.
Right.
This isn't something they feel secure about. Leave it alone. Act like a decent human being. Like don't fuck with that.
Right.
Like there's some things that, like, even if this is the relationship model you have, the friendship model you have, there's some things within that it's like, that's off limits. Don't do that. Don't talk about that. We leave that alone. You can give him shit for anything else, not that.
Right.
So I think that's what's happened here. I think Mark failed to recognize that you don't feel extremely confident in your abilities, and I think the two of you have had this friendship pattern, and you already knew. And so instead of having a way to tell him, knock it off, because it's part of the social contract is you've got to have an out, some way to communicate, shut the fuck up, this isn't something I feel confident about, leave me the fuck alone. You proceeded to go DEFCON 1.
Right.
So I'm going with everyone shitty here.
Okay. I'm going with not the asshole, fire Mark.
Oh, so Brenda has questions.
Okay.
How safe was the neighborhood? And a comment, he wouldn't be fed by me again or invited to any get-togethers, but I would have made sure he got home safe. I don't want to be the reason someone ends up starring on Unsolved Mysteries.
Right. Well, apparently, if he's texting you petty, he got home safe.
Well, I mean, but do you really want that to be the way you know he got home safe? I mean, like, this at least was your friend up to this moment.
Right.
Yeah, this is exactly what happens when that friendship model doesn't have like a safe word, doesn't have a way for one to communicate to the other to legitimately shut it down. Like or when someone has never had the experience or knows how to process or what the expectation is and just enjoys the picking and has never made the connection that there's some things you cannot pick at.
Right.
Like you gotta shut it down. Like there's some things that, and that's true of all of us, that you just can't do. Now, if you were doing this, he knows, like, and he takes it, all in stride. This could have been a funny evening.
Mm-hmm.
But because this is something he has just that much insecurity about,
Right.
it all went to hell.
Right.
All right.
All right. So let's go to Ask Gays Over 30.
Yes, Ask Gay Bros over 30. They are in the 30 to 34 range, moving in together with two different financial situations. Happy New Year to you all. So I, 33 male, met this guy, 27 male, early last year. We've been dating for nearly a year now, and everything is going well. He's very kind and sweet and thoughtful. We share common interests and hobbies. I'm meeting his friends and family on a regular basis, and we're basically living together. In fact, we haven't slept separately since August, and we're mostly used to stay at my place. My boyfriend is a med student, last year of general medical school, starting intern year in August 2025, and currently living in student housing. He's on a student loan to pay his rent, and he pays his other expenses doing shifts at the hospital some weekends. I, on the other hand, have been working for 7 years now and own an apartment. Got a mortgage, though. The other day, he mentioned that he's going to need to get an additional loan to finish the semester in his student housing. And I figured it's a bit silly for him to get another loan for a few months when he can move in with me. He's losing the student housing this summer anyway, as he will have graduated from med school. The thing is that I've never lived with a boyfriend, so I don't really know how to make this transition, especially one with a financial imbalance like this. I'm a bit afraid that having him moving in my apartment and pay a minimal contribution to the home expense will create a power imbalance, and I really don't want to have this sort of power over him. Or to be in a dynamic where I'm sort of a sugar daddy or something, or that he would feel like he has to be a good boyfriend because I'm granting him a roof, or that I can never know if he fully loves me for me, or if the financial perks he gets from being with me don't play a part in his love, which is silly, I guess, since he's eventually going to make much more money than me. LOL. Anyway, I would love some insights on the subject from people who have experienced something similar.
He's already living there and not paying rent.
Well, but right now he has the opportunity to just leave.
Right.
And I think that's the benefit right now. Like, that's what that loan is going to, like, because here's the thing. If he doesn't do the loan and he gets caught in the middle, then you potentially have multiple months where he has to just keep going or choose to surf someone's couch. Because it doesn't sound like he's going to have the finances to go get his own place if he decides this isn't for him.
Right.
So I think this is one of those situations where this extra loan is going to pay dividends. Whether it avoids you getting into a really long, complicated relationship because he's financially dependent and can't just walk away without like throwing, his med school down the drain and his finances down the drain and couch surfing and just like making his life a disaster. So he chooses to just get along, play along till he can get out, until he's finished and done. I think these are legitimate concerns, and I think that's the exact kind of situation you're about to create. And especially at this level of financial imbalance. Right. Like, because this isn't just a disparity in income where you both have enough income to support yourselves at different like levels. He's off the chart.
Right.
Like he has no ability or minimal ability to self-support right now. He's literally the definition of poor broke college student. You have an established life, like a, so to speak, a real adult. Putting that in air quotes, it's the traditional, you're employed, you have a mortgage, I'm sure you have a car loan. Like, your life is doing the adult thing. He's still over here doing the student thing.
Mm-hmm.
Until he can get out of doing the student thing and get to the point that he has the money to self-support, I think you're exactly setting up the situation where, while it may not be permanent, you may end up in a relationship for at least a few months to a year until he can get established enough to make decisions. Because right now, I don't think he has the finances to make real decisions. That he's gonna, like, if he does this, it's a short-term savings of more student loan debt. But I think it's going to quickly come with the idea that I'm stuck.
Right.
And that in and of itself can really change a relationship when people have the feeling that they have no other choice. Like, you remove choice from people, you're no longer in a relationship that isn't described with the word hostage.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like, even if it's just the mentality.
But at the same time, it's like, how much is this dude costing you? Oh, $20 a month extra in, like, what, your electric or your water? Because your mortgage isn't changing. I think it's very important that, he doesn't allow any of the boyfriend's money to go towards the mortgage. Increase food, increase utilities. That's definitely where that money needs to go. But there needs to be a amount of money paid to you for living there.
I mean, if he's going to be staying there all the time, I mean, I'm sure you could figure out some things while he, and again, I'm really going to stress, keep the student housing. Keep the student housing. Keep the student housing. For as long as he can, so that in case, because this is still a fairly new relationship. Like,
it's been a year.
Well, it's been a year if you count all the casual dating. They got serious in August.
Right.
And that's when he, like, all but moved in.
Right.
But that's only been 4 months. Like, that's when you truly started to get to know who the real him was. Right. And vice versa. That's still, like, that's wet paint. That is wet paint on a relationship. Okay. Like 4 months, like, I mean, depending upon how casual the casual dating was.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, are we talking, like, you did so early last year, let's say March. That would be early last year. So not quite a year yet. And then from March to August, let's say you're doing the ramp up from, a couple of dates to, a date every week to a couple of dates a week to, and then eventually get here. That's still basically, I mean, I'm not saying the paint's so wet, like if you set on it, you're going to get covered in like paint. I'm just saying you're going to damage the finish.
Right.
Like, that paint hasn't really set up yet. You're going to leave fingerprints. Like, that's where I'm at.
Actually, I was the reprehension on that one.
Okay. What now?
On Brenda's question.
Oh. Dang, Aeson, it took you a while to get Joe to agree to move in, didn't it? Yes, it did. Well, no, actually, no. The move in wasn't that big of a deal. Because, like, he had already fought the battle of we aren't even dating. That was the battlefield. That was the war.
Was it a war?
The hell it wasn't. You were fighting that tooth and nail.
No.
We are too dating. We are too. We could date.
All I said was we could date. You kept saying we can't date. I'm like, no, we can date. I see you once a, you got availability once a week. That's all I'm looking for right now is see you on Wednesday. So no, that wasn't the deal. The deal was you kept limiting yourself, and I'm going, that's not a limit that exists here.
Okay. But then when it came to moving in, so what is your opinion on that?
You made the choice to move in because I gave you two choices.
Well, yeah, no, we did have to decide like what was the best move-in situation,
right?
But we got there pretty quickly. Like, as in, it was just like make the case for do we get a loan and buy the house for Princeton, or do we move to here and we you own it free and clear.
Right.
So and there were pros and cons on both sides.
Right.
Like like this house is a little older and needs a little more work. This house is a little newer, needs a little less work, but we're going to be encumbered with like a mortgage.
Right.
So like
yeah. But no, that decision was made between Whitfield and Princeton, which is what, 45 minutes? Well, no, you were driving, so an hour and a half.
Yes, thank you. In the weirdest conversation ever.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there were, yeah. So, but no, it wasn't like that. Again, I don't think was all that big. Like to get to the point where, okay, we're dating. Was the bigger struggle.
That was the bigger struggle, and it was the struggle because I wasn't investing.
Right, but what I'm saying is that was more the war. The move in was like a minor battle of very little effort.
Right.
Like that was just more the analytical of like, what's our best choice here? Do I move in with you or you move in with me? And then how do we make either one of those situations like as good as it can be? Right. Like where do we put our effort and our money, and like what's the better choice here?
Right.
Like what makes more sense? Right. Or do we take a third option and like, okay, we're going to chunk both houses and go for a totally different situation.
Right.
Which we, at the time, we played with that one for a little while.
For like a weekend.
Yeah, we played with it for a weekend. It's like, that's a fun, but we're not, no. I don't think we can go all in on like chunk both houses, do this.
Yeah.
Like nails, like, and most of that had to do with like your career was a little rocky at that time. Like you were having some big fluctuations.
Right.
And so like trying to get approved for like a lot and a building or a whole other mortgage for a whole house versus like 4/5 of Princeton, I think we could have pulled off. Because that would have been like I already 20% owned the house. I just had to finance the rest of it. Which wouldn't have been that bad. But then we start looking at, well, but how does that compare to this house and these things?
Like how we went back and forth.
It was totally.
I mean, because the house in Princeton would have required a fence, it would have required new electric, it would have required either lopping off part of the garage or building me a building in the back. It would require a dry well. Why is my camera going off?
I swear you were hitting something tonight. Oh goodness, we just lost your camera entirely.
Okay. Yeah, it's gone entirely.
That's okay. We're about out. Yeah. So all right, let's go over to the poll. And we'll just get him out of here.
All right, so let's hop over to the poll. And the poll agrees. Everyone is shitty here.
That's where I'm at. I really think it has to do with the relationship more than the event.
Right.
Like, I think the events of that night were totally typical. It's just y'all didn't have a safe word.
Right.
Like, can we make that a thing where if you are friends with someone, please create a safe word?
Right.
Like, cinnamon, cinnamon, cinnamon.
Or enough.
Or pineapple, something to actually communicate that, like, I'm not just like, like whatever in this exchange. Like, this isn't just another random Tuesday and another stupid nitpicky thing we do. This is shut up.
Right.
Like, you're done. No. You have stumbled into the no zone.
Right.
We don't go there. Because I really think that like more. There you go. You're back.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really think that's an important thing that's not just about like kink play or whatever, having safe words, which is super important. It really, like, I think you could really change the dynamic of friendships to have, or in any relationship, by having the moment of like, no. So yeah. Like, you got to know your limits, especially if you're going to play, which again is exactly what I think happened here. If you're going to play around, you got to know when you're done.
Right.
All right.
All right. So we will be back on Monday. Hazel is returning. You may get, the baristas may get a video on my new planning system, but it's going to be a video, not a live stream.
Cool.
Yep.
Oh, we have Brenda comment.
Yes.
Oh, like, yeah, that, like, couples having that time to leave word when attending functions. Yeah.
I need coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, don't start giving people things to you to, like, that's between a couple. You don't ever share it. Like, I'm just saying. Don't share it, because then you get in trouble. Everyone knows. Like, nope, you just gave the time to leave. Like, what did we do? What's wrong? No, I don't want to deal with that. That's why we had a code phrase.
And it's not like, that one, by the way.
Yeah,
but FYI.
Yeah,
so anyhow.
But something that says, oh, yep, nope, we're done here. So yeah. All right. Take it away, Vanna.
Take it away, Vanna.
All right. So, of course, we want to thank Beverly Walker, Mika G, Brenda, Joan Owen, Shannon C, Shannon D, Lady Gwendolyn, Caitlin Bell, Devin, Bella, and Maria Meyer. If you'd like to learn more about us, the show, or how you too can become a Patreon sponsor and receive all the wonderful benefits our baristas receive, please visit us at pcspnetwork.com.
Yes. All right, guys. We will see you on Monday. Bye, y'all.
Bye.